Hello and welcome to week 5 of Health 402 Research Methods in Public Health Settings. This week we are going to be covering qualitative research. So you're going to be learning about what qualitative data is. You'll definitely learn how it's different from quantitative data. Qualitative and quantitative data are very different. So you'll learn about the difference between those two. And you'll learn why qualitative data collection is really important in public health. We can use it in ways that helps inform our research that's a lot different from, let's say, quantitative data. For many of you, this might be the first time that you're really learning about qualitative data, and that's okay. This is probably one of the first classes that really dives into what qualitative data actually is. So you'll get a lot of information that you probably haven't gotten in other classes. And to help you get some additional practice with understanding how to collect qualitative data, your lab this week is actually going to focus on creating materials for qualitative data collection. And then in week 9, we're actually going to practice with some qualitative data that you're going to analyze, but you're not going to do that until week 9. This week, you're just going to focus on understanding techniques in terms of how to actually create qualitative data collection materials. So this is your module for this week. You'll notice that it looks a little bit shorter than the previous modules you've completed so far. That's because some of the videos in this module are a little bit longer, so you've just got less pages. So please make sure, even though it looks a little shorter, make sure to leave yourself enough time to complete the full module. Again, those videos are a little longer on these pages, so you'll need to make sure you have enough time to complete them. So for this week, you're going to complete this module. You're also going to read Chapter 8 of your textbook. In terms of the module, you're going to get an introduction to qualitative research. You're going to learn about qualitative research data collection strategies. You're going to learn about the actual methods for data collection. We're going to talk about things like interviews and focus groups. We're also going to talk about content analysis. And then you'll learn about the reliability and validity of qualitative data. And then again, in your lab for this week, you're going to practice creating qualitative data collection materials. You also have your quiz and your discussion posts. Please make sure that you complete the whole module and you read Chapter 8 of your textbook before sitting down to take the quiz. For your discussion this week, you're going to think about your research question and you're going to think about your research proposal. Specifically, what I want you to consider for this discussion post and really think about is if you wanted to collect qualitative data for your research proposal, what would this look like? Now, you don't have to collect qualitative data for your research proposal, but just for this discussion, I want you to think about if you did, how would it be helpful, and think about what exactly you would collect. So for your initial post, part 1, you're going to simply state your research question for your research proposal. This should probably be kind of solidified by now, but if you do need to make changes, you can do so. But I want to hear what your research proposal is, your research question is for your research proposal, what type of data that you are planning to collect for your research proposal assignment. So think about, will it be qualitative, or will it be quantitative, or maybe it's a mix of both. But make sure to talk about the types of data and what they might measure. I also want you to think in part 3, think about how qualitative data could help inform your research study. So consider how collecting qualitative data before, during, or after your study could be beneficial. So, for example, could qualitative data collection before your study help inform the multiple choice questions for your survey? Sometimes we don't really know all of the potential responses for a given question, so maybe doing some qualitative data collection before might be really helpful in figuring out what multiple choice questions that you're going to ask your participants. Could collecting qualitative data during your study help expand on their closed-ended questions? Could a follow-up qualitative study help expand your findings? You want to make sure to explain your answer. So for example, let's say that you're looking at what beliefs and misinformation are associated with HPV vaccine uptake in a given population. Well, let's say that you're not totally sure about what beliefs and misinformation exist. So maybe you want to conduct some qualitative research beforehand before you create your quantitative survey to really be able to understand all of the beliefs and misinformation that might exist out there. And then that would be really helpful in terms of designing your quantitative survey. And then the last part of this initial post, you want to think about a strength and a limitation to collecting qualitative data for your research proposal. So you need to specifically state one limitation and one strength. So maybe, for example, you could think about the fact that qualitative data collection can be more time-consuming to do, right? That could be a limitation. But a strength, kind of going back to that example around beliefs and misinformation and HPV vaccine uptake, maybe, there isn't some existing scale or survey question for measuring misinformation about that specific vaccine. And so doing qualitative data, even though it's more time consuming, it can really give you a more in-depth understanding of all of the different beliefs and misinformation that might exist, that you potentially wouldn't just know by creating a quantitative survey. And then lastly, for your reply post, based on your classmates' response, you need to provide one suggestion or piece of advice. Make sure it's a clear suggestion or piece of advice. So when you do this, just make sure to be respectful. You've all been very respectful so far in your discussion posts, but just a reminder. So think about, do you have a suggestion for how qualitative data could be incorporated into their research proposal? Maybe you read their research question and their post and you have an idea that they didn't mention on how they could potentially incorporate qualitative data collection. That would be really helpful. So that's the plan for this week. Make sure to complete the module. Make sure to complete the Chapter 8 reading. You've got those discussion posts for discussion 5 with your initial post due on Thursday, your reply due on Sunday. And then you've got your quiz based off of the material you learned this week that is also due on Sunday. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you all in lab.